Should we go live? Yeah, we're ready to go. Cool. We're going live right now.
Okay.
We're all set.
All right. Good evening. This is the meeting of the Village of New Paltz Environmental Policy Board. My name is Ted Nitz. I'm the chair of the board. This is our meeting for Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. There is an ability to watch this live through YouTube, and there's also an email address for questions of our board this evening. We do have some members of the public and others here this evening with us. We do have quorum. I have four members here that I see, so I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Our tradition is to afford the opportunity for the public to comment as one of the first things on the agenda. So it is the second item. If anyone would like to address the Environmental Policy Board now or through an email later time, we'll address those comments as we get them. All right, we'll move on to the second item. We don't have any public hearings scheduled for this evening. Administrative items before we get, or as we get started. Ariana's had the agenda posted, sent around, made a couple of changes. I will share it here. We should all be able to see that now. If there's no changes or anything, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as we've got it set out.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Although any discussion on the agenda, not seeing any, we'll go ahead and approve the agenda as posted. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Before we get to let's go ahead with the approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes. February 9th, 2021 was our last meeting. Ariana did a great job of putting together those minutes. I don't think I haven't heard anything to the detriment of those minutes as posted for February 9th. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from February 9th, 2021.
So moved.
Motion.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. So moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes from February 9th, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. There are no claims that I'm aware of for this evening to pay. Announcements. So at this point, right before we get into the next item, I wanted to all introduce ourselves. We have a couple of new people here for this evening. Again, my name is Ted Nitz. I live in the community of New Paltz, in the town specifically. I'm the chair of the Environmental Policy Board for the village. Ariana, why don't you introduce yourself next, please?
Hi, I'm Ariana Basco. I'm the assistant to the mayor in the village board, as well as the secretary for the EPB.
Great. Don?
I'm Don Kerr, a former trustee in the village and a founding member of this body.
Okay. And Fiona?
I am Fiona Bowen, and I am a member of the Village EPB.
All right. And then stealing all the thunder of our newest member, Jonathan Kolb, you want to introduce yourself maybe a little bit longer, say a little bit about yourself, and welcome to the Environmental Policy Board.
So as Ted stated, I am a newly appointed member of the Village Environmental Policy Board with Village of New Paltz. I recently graduated from SUNY New Paltz in December with a degree in political science and a minor in environmental studies. And I'm really interested in water quality and municipal water standards.
Thank you, Jonathan. We have a trustee with us this evening. Alex, you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Wojcik, village trustee, board liaison for the Environmental Policy Board.
All right. And then the Environmental Policy Board, we use research interns quite a bit. Riley is one of them. Riley, if you introduce yourself, please.
Hello, my name is Riley Corzine, and I'm a researcher on the Village of New Paltz Environmental Board.
All right. And then I don't know for sure. Antos, is that someone?
Yeah, so on the agenda is the B City budget spreadsheet. So I invited 2 people or 3 people from Future Fruits who are going to be who we would be purchasing plants from.
All right, great. So those are the members. of the board. Thank you for all introducing yourselves. The next item is the village planning board update discussion. Don is our liaison to the planning board. The environmental policy board serves a role of assisting and advising the planning board for the village. Don, you want to go ahead and let us know what's going on with the planning board?
Sure. There were a couple of small projects discussed at the last planning board meeting. What used to be Murphy's Bar is going to be a piano bar. There's a wood-fired pizza restaurant going in on Main Street, but the real eye-opener was a proposal for a 60-acre, 248-unit apartment complex with a recreation center called Newport Apartments. Generally, that sort of project would go in front of the planning board for environmental assessment for the seeker process. In this case, the developer is asking for the land which is now in the town to be annexed to the village. And because of that, the seeker process will take place prior to the annexation. And the planning board was told by their attorney that the planning board will really have no say in the seeker, because once the annexation is done, the seeker is an approved document and not really open to review or alteration. So ordinarily, I would have asked the planning board attorney to advise the EPB, because the planning board isn't going to have their general role and responsibility, and they have the expertise. But the law that created the EPB says that we have the responsibility as a body to advise the village board on seeker issues. So that means it falls on us. And in response to Paul's question, I would very much just speak about myself. I have no training or background in this area. I know a little bit from being on the village board, but it seems to me an awesome responsibility to be the body and the only body that has the legal responsibility to advise the village board in a project like this, and not have the experience or the expertise to bring to the task. So I'm not speaking for any other members of the board, but I personally don't feel at all trained or qualified to be able to take this on. So I asked Attorney Paul Ackerman from the city of Poughkeepsie, or town of Poughkeepsie, to join us and to just give us be able to answer our questions and give us a little bit of an idea on what to look for and what areas we should be considering, and just a general primer.
Yes. Should I just start a little bit?
Well, so
And let's
Don,
discuss.
if you don't mind, I'll just put a little bit of a structure to it. So we're still within item 5, which is the village planning board update. You, Don, you've brought a guest speaker with you. We are challenged for time. We've got a 7 o'clock deadline, but I think we have plenty of time to talk about this. I appreciate, Paul, you being here. And Don, if I could say, I think what you're looking for is Paul to give us kind of an introductory primer, kind of describe in more detail what our duties and activities might be for this topic.
Yep, that's good. And also, I have a couple of questions, as other people do as well. But I think as far as business, I think I'd like to make a proposal that the Environmental Policy Board agree to retain Paul from our budget in response to a question. I believe your municipal rate is $195 an hour?
$185 an hour.
$185 an hour. All right. And we do have money in the budget. For the EPB's knowledge, I do plan on attending the village board meeting tomorrow and asking them to be able to provide some financial support for the EPB in terms of expertise such as Paul's. Whether they'll respond to that or not, I don't know, but I will ask for that tomorrow.
All right. So a couple of things before we get started. Ariana, fill us in a little bit on what's happening with the village. You're suggesting that the planning board may be doing a seeker review?
So yeah, actually, the village board does not want to be the lead agency on seeker, and the planning board is going to take that on. As it's not official yet, this will happen tomorrow night at the joint village town board meeting. But they're going to be having the planning board attorney, the village attorney, and some of the developer folks, Mike Moriello and some of his team, along with the planning board chair, John Litton, at their meeting tomorrow night to discuss exactly this. And the idea is that the village board will not be conducting the seeker review, that the planning board will be doing it.
Well, that's in complete contradiction to what we were told at the planning board.
It absolutely is, because it's a new development. Yeah, you're totally right, Don. At that planning board meeting, that was not yet decided. But this is all coming down the line, and both boards have to agree to it. I think the town board also has to agree to that, which I imagine that they will. But yeah, this is the development that's happening, but it's not official yet.
So
it does change things a little bit. I know.
that's relevant information. Yes, yes.
So if I could, Don, I think it's still helpful for us to understand better what our roles and responsibilities are as the Environmental Policy Board serving the Village Planning Board. Paul's here. I think it's great that he's here. I would support a motion that we'd be doing, I think, similar to what you had suggested earlier, is purchasing an hour of his time to be able to ask questions, hear from him straight as to what we could expect as we move through here. Now that we've got a little bit more structure, it's anticipated that the Village Planning Board is going to do or be the lead agency for seeker. We're still going to fill our role or be tasked with our role of supporting the Village Planning Board. And with a large project like that, maybe some of the things that we might expect moving forward over the next couple of months. How's that sound, Don?
Works for me.
All right, so I'll propose a motion that we authorize the Environmental Policy Board to purchase up to 1 hour of Paul's time, appreciating his willingness to be here on the fly and advise us on this important issue.
Seconded.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this topic? It is within our budget. Don and I did talk about it beforehand. It is a dynamic situation, but I think it's helpful for us to have this information. This will also be recorded, so we can use it as a resource in the future as Paul kind of talks through what to expect. Any other discussion, concerns, questions? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Paul, welcome to the meeting.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Help us out. We appreciate your
Sure.
insight.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you for having me. You know, I have very limited information at this time, but I can try to, you know, kind of lay out the process and answer any questions that you may have at this time. You know, what it appears to be is a development of a property that is currently in the town, which the developer, probably for more favorable zoning reasons, is looking to annex that property into the village and then develop the property in the village. I recently recently went through an annexation process in a town that I represent, and I have done some other annexation of similar properties before. And the annexation of property can be conducted one of two ways. Excuse me here. So the first way is it could be by petition of the property owner. So the property owner can petition that if he is the owner of all the property, to be petitioned to be annexed into another village or town, or vice versa. It could also be done by petition of a number of signatures of parties in that geographical area that is looking to be annexed. So it appears here that maybe the developer of the 60 acres is looking to annex his property into the village, and it will be done by petition. After the petition is received by both boards, there has to be a secret process. It is a action by the board. Any action by a board is required to consider seeker and seeker regulations.
Well, if I could just interrupt real quickly.
Yeah.
That seeker, though, that would be specifically just the annexation, right? There
Right.
still would
The
be a
first
seeker
action,
for- okay.
the first action that has to happen is the annexation. Obviously the village and the town board are those that will be adopting a resolution of annexation if they so choose to do it, or they could oppose it. But either way, they have to make a finding under seeker. So they are involved agencies. I'm curious and would need more information as how they would delegate that authority to the planning board, especially for annexation, except for if there is some type of application pending for the development already, possibly through a coordinated review. But either way, they would have to be involved in the process as an involved agency. The town board could be the lead agent, right? So one agency under a coordinated review would have to be a lead agency. So either the town board or the village could be lead agency. But I'm curious as to how the planning board for annexation purposes would be the lead agency under coordinated review. So again, without further documents and looking at those documents, I really can't comment further, but that's one thing I would have a question about.
Well, according to an article in the local paper, the planning board attorney stated that due to the fact that there's already a project proposed, that the seeker process would involve both the land itself and also the proposed project. So that might be how the planning board gets re-involved, but I don't, I just heard this a few minutes ago myself.
Maybe what they're going to say is it's a coordinated review. I mean, annexation is a little bit different than any other action. Annexation is specifically set forth in the general municipal law. It delegates that authority to the governing bodies of each municipality. There is a process that involves those governing bodies. Each body will have to have a hearing on specifically the annexation. There's going to have to be findings, and ultimately there's going to have to be a determination in order of those municipalities as to whether or not they feel that annexation is in the best interest of the public. And so that authority is really delegated to the towns. So I would be interested to see how they're going to coordinate that environmental review. I mean, the planning board really can't make findings on the annexation because there's bigger issues that really aren't governed by the planning board. There's taxation issues. There is potentially fire and sewer issues, water issues, which really are governed by the town board and not by the planning board.
Okay.
And let me just say, and the authorization of this board is to advise so you'll have to be involved at any point of this. You're going to have to be involved because you have advisory role on seeker.
And one of my concerns, we did Ted and I, a couple of years ago, did a wastewater treatment plant capacity study. And at that point, if all the projects that had been proposed at the time were built, I think our plant would have been at 93% capacity. That's one aspect of this project which really has my attention. But at what point during the process would the EPB or some other body recommend taking a look at capacity in the wastewater plant as part of this process?
Well, that's clearly a seeker issue. Seeker requires you to look at the capacity for water and sewer, it would be probably what we would consider a substantial impact, and that's for the project. So the question is, how can that be mitigated, and where are they connecting to the village? Are they connecting to the town?
Well, I think that's probably one of the reasons they'd want to do this. The village has municipal sewer and water. The town does not.
But the question is, does the village have the capacity?
Yeah, that is the question. And I don't know the answer, but I'm afraid of the answer.
Well, I mean, that's clearly a seeker issue that's gonna have to be considered now, maybe not for the annexation. If, you know, if this is not a coordinated review, then probably not for, or it could be for annexation, because maybe for annexation, you know, what is gonna need to be looked at for seeker purposes, you know, what could be developed on these sites? And what sewer capacity would be needed if those sites are developed? And is that gonna tax the current, facilities, sewer facilities?
Didn't you do a study on that, Ted? On the capacity sewage treatment plant and how much was left and how much they were using?
Yes, Rachel, just before you joined in, that's the statement that Don had brought up. Don and I had worked on that a couple of years ago. It was based on 2017 and 2018 flow data, and is due for a refresh based on 2019, 2020 type data.
The estimate that I heard was that it's 1,000 people. So that would be like, for the town, like a 7% increase all overall in population.
Well, 734 beds. So I guess that could be 1,000 people.
I don't know. That was the number I heard.
Well, lots of people share a bed, sure. There are a couple ponds on the property, Paul. Is that what?
So I think the relevant question is going to be, are they wetlands? If they're wetlands, what lands are they? Are they federal designated wetlands? Are they state? Clearly that's going to be another seeker issue that needs to be considered. Generally speaking, there needs to be a buffer, and there needs to be some mitigation of those ponds. But are there any floodplains, flood zones on there? We'll have to also be taking a look at. But all those things need to be considered as part of seeker.
Yeah.
Rachel, we have, if I could interrupt just real quick, Rachel, we have a number of other new faces for this evening. Rachel is a member of the Environmental Policy Board, also a member of the Village Planning Board. Rachel, could you introduce yourself real quick?
Hi, I'm Rachel. I was on the environmental board for many years, and I still am until someone takes my place, and I'm on the planning board right now. And I do a lot of, I walk around a lot, so I have pictures of all the sites. I have pictures of the ponds if anyone wants to see. Right now it's frozen. They're frozen, but it's really beautiful.
Don, any more topics or questions of Paul?
Well, that's my one of the reasons I wanted some expertise. I honestly don't know the questions to ask. I'm again just never have been in a seeker review of this sort of size or scale, and there is a seeker cookbook and a process.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, Paul, do you feel if we just followed through the seeker process, that would bring us to the places we needed to go?
Well, I think that the board should monitor the project, should be cognizant of how the review is going to be done, whether it's going to be a coordinated review with the planning board, or if it's going to be the village of the town. Obviously you're going to want to carefully look at any of the environmental statements. And if there's further questions, whether or not the environmental policy board has questions, feel free. I'm available to ask those questions. Somebody will be guiding this process. If you feel at some point that the concerns of the environmental policy board are not being heard or entertained, I'm happy to help you to make sure that the process is done correctly, and that you have your opportunity to be heard to the full extent that you're permitted pursuant to the law.
Well, I guess that's go ahead.
I was on the environmental board when Woodland Pond got built, And I just, having gone through that, I saw a lot of things that went wrong.
Mhm.
And so what I'm wondering is there a way that I could, organize a list of these to somehow make sure those things don't happen again? Or to, at least maybe that would give us a clue, because I feel like that's, we that's part of what we do, you know?
Rachel, if I could, Paul, for a normal process, I want to assign, we'll say, the responsibilities where they lie. It's not that the Environmental Policy Board or even the Planning Board would need to create the environmental impact statement or fill out the forms or determine if these wetland areas are there or not. All of that responsibility lies with the applicant, and the applicant will prepare the short form. You guys have seen that before. Right now, what the town is going through right now is a review of the wireless communication facility or the tower, off of was it Jensen Road, where the developer or the person that wants to put in that project is responsible for filling out the short form for the Environmental Policy Board's review, the Planning Board's review, and eventual approval. And then if it's deemed as a potentially significant impact, which I imagine this project would be, they'll be required to put together a full-blown draft environmental impact statement for the project, which this is just the first 20 pages. It's actually like 300 pages long or something like that. Again, the developer is responsible for putting that together, as I would understand it or expect it for this situation. And then the Environmental Policy Board, the Planning Board, whoever, what we expect is what will take place tomorrow is the Planning Board will become lead agency. Will have the responsibility and the ability to review those documents, not necessarily create them from scratch.
Yeah, that's correct. So the applicant is required to submit the part one and a short form environmental impact statement. The town may or the village may require a full environmental impact statement. And at that time, pursuant to the application, somebody's going to have to declare their intent to be lead agency. So you have really two decisions here. You have the application before the planning board, and you also have a request for a annexation. And that's a separate action, and that's an action that has to go before the town and the village boards. And the question is going to become is who's going to be the lead agency. Either agency that has a part of this action can declare their intent to be lead agency. If they both do, then the commissioner of the DEC will make a determination of who's lead agency, and that's if there's a coordinated review. But yeah, there's going to be substantial review of the EAS by the planning board. The planning board's consultants, their engineer, they're going to painstakingly go through and identify any potential impacts. Any of those potential impacts that could be significant will need to be mitigated, and then they will present those to the applicant and say these are the potential impacts that we feel will be substantial or significant, and you need to make a determination of how you're going to mitigate them. This can come at a scoping session, and that's if there's a positive declaration. Positive declaration just means that there is a concern that there will be a significant environmental impact, and we are issuing a positive declaration, which would then go to a scoping session, and ultimately for the goal to be a negative declaration with the impacts mitigated. But at the same time, the planning board or whoever the lead agency, if it's going to be the planning board, will have to determine any other involved agencies. And there can be Ulster County Planning for a 239M review. They can be another municipality that may be within a certain distance. And it could be at least for an interested party, the Environmental Policy Board, who advises the village.
I think, Don, part of that was to illustrate that we're not in this alone. We'll have documents and work that will be required, but then also our requirement to review it and feel comfortable with it or not, and state our our thoughts on that.
My suggestion is that at the time that you, and I say you being the Environmental Policy Board, become you are in receipt of the environmental impact statement, whether it be a long form, whatever it may be. At your point of reviewing that, if you have questions on that and need guidance, I would be happy to help you out with that. That's going to be your time to really dive into it and see, what is your opinions with regard to potential significant impacts and how should they be addressed.
So assuming some decision is made tomorrow about lead agency, at what point would we have to request to be an interested party, or would that just?
Well, yeah. So first of all, you can't be a involved agency, so you wouldn't really have no jurisdiction over who is the and who's going to be the lead agency. But yes, I would make a motion, and adopt a motion requesting that this board be listed as a interested party. But you're not going to do that until the lead agency is determined.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we'll know a lot more about the direction and our role in it after tomorrow's meeting. So.
All right.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Paul?
No, I just, it was a pleasure meeting you. I wish I had, more information from you, which, I could give to you, but I'm available for questions. I obviously I'm going to donate my time for tonight. So don't worry about that, but I am available if you guys ever have questions or anything.
That's really great. Thank you so much.
I'll have a question, Paul. I'm just going to, dive into that and just take full advantage of that pro bono work. I appreciate it.
No
First of all, on behalf of the village, town,
No.
environmental policy board, we appreciate your help.
I have a lot of respect for Don. We've worked together in the past on some other issues, and I'm happy to help out when I can.
Yeah. So you mentioned about expressing that we'd be an interested party. As a policy board this evening, could we consider a motion that would say, regardless of who's designated as lead agency, we are authorizing the chair or the Ariana to express our interest in being a lead
Yes.
agency once that identity is decided?
Yes, you could do that, and I would suggest that maybe you direct it to both the village, to the town, and then to the planning board.
I think the planning board already is going to be the lead agency. We voted to be the lead agency. I think there might be one more thing, but I think that's the most likely outcome.
So maybe what happened was you declared your intent to be lead agency, circulated it, and maybe nobody else responded that they're interested in being lead agency. So the next step would be to actually declare yourself to be lead agency, which may be happening at the meeting tomorrow, which seems likely. And if that's the case, then you can just direct your request to be an interested party to the planning board.
Wouldn't they be involved?
Sorry, Rachel?
Isn't the environmental board an involved agency?
I believe that you're only advisory to the village board, and since you're only advisory, you can't be an involved agency.
All right. Well, I think what I'm interested in doing is under new business, I would offer a motion later on the meeting that would ask Ariana to send a letter to the village, the town, and the village planning board expressing our interest in being an interested party once the lead agency is determined.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe what you do is you direct whoever it may be to send notice to the lead agents, to whoever, the designated lead agency that your board wants to be an interested party. And then once that's determined, they can send that request. Makes sense.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Paul.
No problem. I'm
Any other
happy-
questions or anything for Paul?
Let me know.
Thanks, sir.
Have a good day. Good night.
Don, anything else? We're on item 5, Village Planning Board update and discussion with Don.
No, there are a bunch of projects coming up. They're not all in front of the planning board, but the one that was in front of the planning board was turning Murphy's into a piano bar, creating an outside deck. I see construction going on where lemongrass used to be, on Church Street where McFoxton's used to be, but those items are not in front of the planning board as of yet.
Anything else for Don on Village Planning Board topics or items? All right. Next on our agenda is the awareness and collaboration report from the town's Environmental Conservation Board. That's an item I handle. I also serve as a member on the town's Environmental Conservation Board. We met last on February 17th. I've got a copy of the minutes here with me. I'll go over a couple of the highlights. There was no one available for public comment. We did spend some time talking about the Trans Hudson project. They had requested variances from the ZBA to waive the second floor residential requirement and to allow for drive-through. There was a discussion regarding the ZBA's public comment policy that it was prohibiting members of the public from being able to comment at the ZBA meeting. Amanda, who's on the planning board, shared that there will be a public hearing on March 10th. And that public comment will be allowed at that time. She suggested that any submissions be made that day. Ingrid, who's the chair of the Environmental Conservation Board, and myself seconded. We voted to reissue the town Environmental Conservation Board's concerns regarding the Trans Hudson project and send it to and have it presented at the public hearing. The sport, Rachel last time, and she's not here, it's a Sporting Clays wetland violation issue that was brought up last time. Sporting Clays is the name of the facility, and that's still an ongoing issue. We did talk about the Moriello annexation, or this project, at the town's Environmental Conservation Board meeting on February 17th. There wasn't much known about it. It was said at the meeting that the village was declared lead agency for the annexation. And that the town will be involved agency, and that the ENCB can provide guidance as the project progresses. That was the opinion of the Environmental Conservation Board at that meeting last time. I'm sure there'll be an update for the next time. Planning Board liaisons, the Conservation Board rotates that role. I will be attending the March 22nd Planning Board meeting for the town. Big news, the Environmental Conservation Chair, for a long time it's been Ingrid. She has announced that she is stepping down, and that Rich Whitney has agreed to take over the chair role come March, or no, I'm sorry, the April meeting. We're gonna certainly wish Ingrid well. Wetland brochure, the town's Conservation Board, we've finished updates to the brochure. It'll have 2 forms. One is a hard copy. 2, that one will be online. It'll have links and other information in regards to the wetlands law for the town. Critical environmental areas, the designation is being sought for certain areas in the town. The Conservation Board is currently waiting for the planning board, the town's planning board, to submit questions or comments in regards to that designation. I gave a village EPV update at that time. Climate Smart update, the natural resources inventory. The final version is out for final comments and review. Bee City, there was discussion on that topic. Rose, who serves on the Environmental Conservation Board, was encouraged to reach out to Rachel and Riley, others that are involved with that effort. The tree review, the town or the Conservation Board is planning a tree law review later on this year. And that the NCB members were encouraged to seek out 4 hours of training each year. That reminder was given out. And also at the same time, there was MS4 stormwater quality sessions or presentations available for free, funded by the or sponsored by the town a couple of weeks ago. March 17th is the Town Conservation Board's next meeting. Any questions on things that are going on with the town's Environmental Conservation Board?
Can you just say again who will be taking over as chair? I missed the name.
Yeah, his name is Rich Whitney, Whitney.
Cool.
That's no vote's been taken, but that's what's been spoken about as the intent.
Thanks for your involvement, Ted. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next item is Environmental Policy Board reports, officers, committee members, others. Plastic bag update, village and the town kind of still stands at where it's been lately. I've heard of no legislative efforts or anything to address the current situation with plastic bags, paper sacks in the village and town areas. Residential refuse, I've talked the last couple of weeks about getting data to help support the idea of maintaining a single hauler for residential trash in the area. I don't have any update on that right now. And finally, Bee City Village Hall Ecoscaping Project. I'm glad to turn things over to Riley. Riley, if you could go ahead and talk to us about that topic, introduce your guests, and we welcome you to the meeting.
All right, so I'm sorry that you guys had to wait for so long. But yeah, we're working, the Village of Newport's Environmental Policy Board is actually collaborating with Future Farms, which is an organization in Kingston. And I invited a few of their guests to speak at this meeting because we're actually going to be looking at the Bee City budget spreadsheet, which I saw is on the agenda. So I guess the two people on here from Future Fruits are Elizabeth and Isabel. If you'd like to unmute and introduce yourselves, that would be cool.
Sure. Isabella, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm Isabel. I'm a student at SUNY New Paltz, and I'm working with Can Landscape Design in Kingston and Jared from Future Fruits to work on a community space for in front of Village Hall. And yeah, that's what we're doing.
I'm Elizabeth Guthrie. I'm a professor at SUNY New Paltz and SUNY Albany. I've just started working with Future Fruits and Future Farms, so I'm kind of here to learn. Going to be probably working on development with them.
All right, so yeah, I was hoping to have Jared join. I sent him the link a little while ago, but I guess I'm just gonna share my screen just so you can see the budget spreadsheet. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think, well, I think you're able to.
I'm now, yeah. All right, so can everyone see this?
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so I guess the first thing is, I'm not sure what exactly our budget is, but what I identified as the really important aspects of this project are the trees and the shrubs. So the total for that will be 410. But Future Fruits is also proposing we buy a bunch of herbs and ground covers as well. So I guess the real question is, what is the budget for this project, would you say? What should be the budget for this project, and what is the amount of money that the Environmental Policy Board has allocated?
So I just want to say two things. One is that we already received a donation that I don't know the amount of, and I'm sorry, I should have totally looked at that first for this project. And then somebody else said that they would, I don't know if you saw that email, Riley, I think you were on it. Rose wrote that she would donate the amount that you had listed already in this spreadsheet. So we have some donations to use, and then we also have budget that we can draw from. And then the budget part of it is what the board here can decide. So just that's the background.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I must have not seen that email.
It was on a long thread. It's totally not your fault.
All right. So if anyone has any comments about this spreadsheet right here, please feel free.
I don't have any comments. I think it looks complete. I don't. So of the expenses that we're, or the cost items that we're seeing here, none of these right now have been considered or approved by the Environmental Policy Board, right? This is unencumbered or unassigned funds at this point. And what, Ariana, I think you're saying is that there has been some volunteer efforts or donations that may cover all or most of this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, you know, I don't know the dollar amounts. One was somebody who had looked at the spreadsheet and said that they would pay this amount. I don't know if it's been updated at all. I'm trying to remember exactly. It looks, I mean, it looks great, and I think it's pretty similar, the numbers, to what Rose said that she was willing, but I don't know what the other dollar amount of donation was. So I think we probably have most of this covered without even dipping into the EPB budget. Obviously, if the EPB has $500 that has not yet been spent.
All right, and I guess before we wrap this up, I just wanted to ask Kay and landscaping, how essential would you say the herbs and the ground covers are for the design overall?
Are you, sorry, Riley, who did you address that to? Sorry.
I'm addressing that to you and Isabel, just in general.
It's pretty important just because the way that the plants interact, there's a lot of extra space. So we tried to fill all of the space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then they are, because I noticed that they are significantly more money than the trees and shrubs. But you'd say that they are essential for the design to function?
Well, they're essential to the design, the way that it's laid out. I mean, obviously we'd rather do the project than not. But we'd like to fill the area as much as we can with pollinators. So
yeah, plants that serve any ecological benefit. I guess that's what we have to account for. So I guess we could look into that more.
Mm-hmm. And these herbs would definitely be all bee friendly in the ground covers too.
Well, they all serve pollinators, so bees and butterflies and you know, a number of other pollinators as well. Some of them are wind, which is nice, but mostly bees and butterflies.
Okay. All right. I guess I can just quickly show. This is the design that they were thinking about. Let me just open this. So if you can see that, if it's not too small, yes, there are a lot of shrubs to fill and ground covers to fill the gaps, like they were saying. This is sort of just a general preview of what it would look like. If anyone is curious about that. Okay. I guess. Sorry.
No, I also agree. The expensive item on there, and you know, those are generally really not that expensive. And I was curious about the donations. Is it, when you say two, is that the one from KIP? Because I remember that one was like $135 or something like that. It wasn't a large amount of money. And then Rose, is that the only other donation you're talking about?
Those are the two, Rachel. Yep, you got it. I'm glad you know the dollar amount. Perfect.
Well, no, I know how much Rose was going to donate. I think that sounds like a.
Well, Rose saw this spreadsheet and said that she would donate that dollar amount.
Okay. All right.
I will. We should confirm that with her. Obviously, you know, I totally agree with you. Yeah, but I'm glad you know how much was already donated.
Yeah. And he was trying to. The last time I talked to him, he's trying to figure out how to get the money from him to you. Did that work out or no? That's we still have to like get the money from him, right?
No. The village received the donation already.
Received the donation. Okay. Cool. All right. But okay. All right. Yeah, because normally I would think that if it did turn out that they had to reduce the price somewhat, the herbs look like it would be the most likely. since those are normally not expensive at all and, tend to proliferate fairly easily as a ground cover.
Yeah, I think that there were a lot of them. I mean, each one by itself isn't as much, but I think that we were trying to fill the space with quite a few herbs, like under the trees and between the path stones and that sort of thing. So that probably would be, I think you're right, that probably would be a good place to reduce it if we have to.
And then Riley, just to confirm, on the right-hand side, the trees, those are new trees?
Yes, those are pawpaws. Oh, sorry.
Great. This looks fantastic.
All right, so thank you for the time to go over this. I guess we can move on to the next item of the Bee City agenda.
Yes, so soil remediation day.
Yes. So for the soil remediation day, I guess the real question is, me and Rachel a week ago went over to Huguenot Farm and transported a bunch of cardboard to the village hall. So I guess the real question is, would that be a good day to? I guess I'll sort of ask this to KN Landscape Design. Do you think it would be a good idea to lay down the cardboard March 27th? And if we laid the cardboard down on March 27th for that session, would it work how long would we have to wait to plant after we laid down the cardboard on March 27th?
Isabel, do you know the answer to that?
I don't know. We'd have to talk to Karine and Jared about the details, and yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't heard that either, so yeah, I think so.
Well, I think regardless, having a soil building session on March 27th would be good. So how are we going to go about organizing that? Are we going to do what we did last time, where we just sent an editorial to the paper? And I know the Facebook group was already created.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Send something to the paper. We'll post it on the village website.
I'll
like we
announce
did
it
last
tomorrow
time.
night.
Yeah, perfect.
Please don't let me forget. I have
I
a very
can-
long list of things I want to announce tomorrow night. Sorry.
Send them to me and I'll put them in our announcement section and then you won't forget.
Okay, I'll do that later. Thank you.
So are we going to use the same letter as last time for the newspaper?
I don't see why not.
All right. So
Yeah,
it seems
just
like
change
that.
the dates. If there's anything you want to update about it, we absolutely can.
No, I think it worked fine. So I guess we got that cleared up. That's good.
Anything else on Bee City or the Village Ecoscaping Project? All right. Riley, Elizabeth, Isabel, thank you for being here this evening, talking about the project.
Thank you for your
Forward
work.
to seeing it in place.
Yeah, thank you for your time. And thank you.
Next item is composting in the village. Fiona, you have an update for us?
Sure. So I was able to catch up with Janelle and Joanna about the composting situation at the community center, and they're hoping that it will be usable by the community sometime this spring. It seems like where they're at right now is fundraising. So I have to talk to them a little bit more about that to see if there's some way we can support them. I'm not sure if they're looking to just try to get a few donors on board or if they want to source it more from the community. But I'm thinking that's probably going to be the next stage. I saw they have like a little graphic, and it seems like it's going to be 3 moderately large bins, or kind of like using fencing. And so that might be enough for the occasional person who lives in the village to leave compost there. So I'm thinking it's a promising project. So I guess the next stage, like I said, is just seeing how we can support them.
My only question, I guess, about that is, do you think that that precludes also having a drop site at Village Hall? Or do we want like a more walkable drop site as well?
I like having a drop site at Village Hall as well. I'm on the fence as to whether I'd prefer to let them sort of be a pilot program. But also, it would be difficult for people to walk over unless they live in that very specific area of the village. So I think that the end goal definitely has to be more than one drop site. And also working with community composting when we're able to create something with them. I still am open to that if people want to vend out. I'm sure that there are going to be pros, and we can talk to them that we already have these 2 drop sites, or 1 drop site, have another, and see if they can work with us on that.
Cool. I like what you just said about it being a pilot project as well, and just kind of seeing how it goes, since we're not in a big rush.
Right.
Yeah.
I figure if they're willing to try it out, why not let them try it out first?
Yeah,
how it goes,
absolutely.
before we set something up.
Cool. Well, that's exciting though. That is awesome news.
Yeah, I'm really hoping this spring will work out. And I think that's it for me.
All right. Any questions for Fiona on composting topics? All right. Next item is source of raw water supply study. We have a couple of things going on with that here in the near future. Tomorrow night, there'll be a presentation at the joint village and town board meeting. It sounds like there's a long, well, there'll be a full agenda tomorrow. She, the representative from that group, there's a news release. It's in the paper from last week. There'll be an update tomorrow as to that effort to better protect the raw water supply sources for the village and the town as a resource. Also, that group will meet. I am a co-chair for that. We meet on Thursday at 10. Is that right? For that meeting. And like I said, as well, we'll be talking about it tomorrow at the village and the town board. Jonathan, we talked about it before. You're certainly welcome to join our group. I'll get you the link if you don't have it already for Thursday. And we'll invite everybody to tune in tomorrow night to see the presentation regards to the Hudson Estuary and DEC funded program that the village is taking advantage of. Next item is regulations in regards to leaf blowers. Alex, Ariana, update us to that.
I totally just realized I don't think I sent this to you all previously because I started working on like a resolution and I think it needs to be like really a lot more in depth because after kind of just like looking more into the bill in Albany S1113 and kind of like how it doesn't like look at kind of the before leaf blowers and then also like the after parts, you know, and kind of just puts it on municipalities to have like police enforce these things. I feel like it's kind of a cop-out of a bill and we could do better. I really don't understand why actually the state isn't working on getting the manufacturers like to be held more accountable and like creating like a rebate system and all of that. So I just I need to share it with you all. I just put it in as a comment in the agenda and I'll email it in a bit, like kind of where I was like thinking with this. I would like it if we could come up with like a ton of ideas, you know, to put in it, like tips and tricks, you know, how to have green lawn care and how to get away from leaf blowers. Because I really think like the more I think about it and like really wrap my mind around who's going to be impacted, it's like the people who can't afford to buy like electric leaf blowers are going to, you know, get impacted, and it's not going to achieve the better environmental goals, it's going to just create like inequities and stuff. So how do I want us to figure out how to achieve the environmental goals, basically, if that makes sense. So that's like a preamble. It's shared in there. It's made so it's like anyone can edit it. I'll email it out to the group and see like what you all think about it. Also, that bill hasn't moved at all because things have been a little bit fun in Albany in the past week or two.
All right, so Alex, I shared the agenda. The link there is what you're speaking of, and can you copy it and put it in the chat box?
Yeah, I'm on 2 different screens is the thing.
But I do remember that Senate bill being awfully short. It's only like 20, 30 words, something like that.
Yeah, and like I really like the enforcement part really actually bothered me the more I started to think about it, because you know, it's like how can I be like working on getting rid of like use of police like for civil laws and then have more police enforcement of civil laws. Like they really didn't think that one through. It doesn't seem in alignment with like all the other important social justice things. And like I feel like we can achieve those environmental, you know, impacts of like getting off of fossil fuels in our lawn care, you know, but like not without arresting people. Like there's got to be like a better way to do it, and if anyone can do it, I think it's us. So let me find that link now that I'm on this screen.
Well, you know, it costs the village more to remove the leaves. I mean, as it is now, you know, people dump all their leaves into the street and the village has to pick them up. But if it were somehow incentivized and people either, you know, got a rebate or didn't have to pay for this to be done, if they just never raked them and just let them sit there on their lawn. And I mean, I understand that a lot of people don't or can't abide by this somehow. You know, they want to have that, you know, grass monoculture spread or whatever. But it might be, there might be people who just don't care and who wouldn't mind doing it that way because it's less work. It's just that, you know, people didn't used to be allowed to do that. You know, you had to rake your leaves. Although they actually do provide, when you leave them there, you know, they provide a habitat for salamanders. And they nourish the soil and the flowers just grow up, you know, up through the leaves.
Yeah, I really think like there's got to be like more of like a culture change that like maybe we can help usher in. And like Ariana, I think you had like a list of like other folks in the community who are passionate about getting us off of leaf blowers. So, you know, this could be something like maybe with a little bit of help from everyone, you know, we could have this resolution, pass it, and use that as like the jumping off board to kind of get all those great minds together to like kind of let's come up with ideas, you know, to help change that idea that you have to use fossil fuels on your lawn to get rid of your soil feeder layer of leaves. You know, like there's got to be a better way to exist. So maybe we could like get this resolution like really like full. I want to like add a ton of facts. So if anyone can like, if anyone has awesome facts about, you know, fossil fuel use in lawn care or anything to add, please go ahead and add it. I want to make it like a nice like informational resolution, and then we can use that maybe as a jumping off point to like actually change that culture, because it's weird to me that people are so obsessed with you know, kind of using something that's bad for the environment to maintain the natural environment outside their home. Like it doesn't make any sense to me. But it's a culture thing, I think, and I think we could all work together as a community to kind of like get away from that, and just stop burning fossil fuels like in our yards. How many people is on that list, Ari?
It was a pretty short list.
Okay.
It was like mainly people that I know personally who have like complained about it in various ways. I didn't get a ton of responses also. And one of the responses was from somebody who was like, just so you know, I live in the town. Because I was like trying to get people to, I don't know, I was just trying to be like an activist organizer while also working for the village. But yeah, people were like not as gung-ho as I kind of thought they'd be based on their like level of complaint in a personal way.
Well, and this is something,
but I think they still care. It's not that they
Okay.
don't, I don't think that they don't care. It's more just like they didn't write a public statement for me in response to my email.
That's fine. That's all good. I'll think of, we can think of ways to kind of also like pitch it, because it's like, I think it goes with the whole theme of like Bee City and ecoscaping and like all of that. It's like a whole overhaul of how we think about, our lawns and stuff. Like it's just, we need to rethink a lot of things as a culture. And I'll call upon that list for help with that. Hopefully, maybe we can pull them in on, the ecoscaping project. And while we all get our hands dirty together, we can really come up with some solid ideas.
And also maybe they would be a little more responsive with you. Just like, I feel like people see like their friend and it's easier to kind of like ignore or overlook it, forget about it. But like, maybe if you responded on the thread, it would like give them a nudge.
Okay. Yeah, actually we should use that. Thank you.
All right. Anything else on leaf blowers? All right. So we do have a hard stop coming up. So we'll move to the next items. So last time we talked about Riley Passon, who was a different research intern, had prepared a memo or a listing of the different environmental agencies in the New Paltz community. That's one of the items that the Environmental Policy Board is tasked with. That was sent out to those other agencies. The Conservation Board has it, we have it, and so forth. As items like this come up, we should have now a resource of updated information, contact information for those other agencies in our community. One other item, Riley Passon, her internship is already over. It seemed pretty quick. She is planning the second semester or the second half of this semester, dedicating it towards studies, but she hopes maybe to volunteer or be involved more in the summer. But she's definitely been a big help the first half of the semester. Old business. I will, before I get too far, I forgot to mention this. So the Town Environmental Conservation Board, our next meeting is March 17th. And one of the items that we'll be doing is going through this draft environmental impact statement that's about the cell tower. For those that may want to attend here from the Environmental Policy Board to see how that goes. I know we've been through a handful of these as a Conservation Board on the town side. And it should be good for discussion. Like I said, this is just the first 20 pages. This document is actually, I think, closer to 300 pages, something like that, for a cell tower. It's not even a large development type thing to minimize its impact. But so this impact statement will be one of the main items for March 17th Conservation Board meeting. Yeah, go ahead.
Did they ever fly the balloons?
Yes, I've seen pictures of it, the study results from that. In fact, I think it's part of the impact statement is a report on the balloons.
Oh, cool.
Other old business, idling laws. I've not heard any development on that lately, kind of somewhat related to leaf blowers in a fossil fuel sense. Garden Club, a request for help. I think they were, or Riley was going to speak with that group with that. Subject tasks, Riley Pisano done a great job updating the website. Also, Ariana was a big, well, the biggest piece of getting that actual work done. So
She
appreciate
was awesome.
it looks great. I think the updates to it have helped present the information and make it more available for people. So that's good stuff. Next item is budget and spending. So Ariana, this is to date, right? And the budget year is June to June. So we're getting towards the end of the year, and we were budgeted $1,000, 500 of that for personal, 500 of that for contractual. Ariana utilizes the personnel services part, and to date, no expenses have been charged under the contractual part that we have here for the next couple of months. Correct?
This is correct. I also don't think that I don't think that my cost is that much, the full amount. So, I don't know if that means that we could use it for other things, but I think they budget for 2 hours and we don't usually have 2-hour meetings. So
yeah, it could be because you schedule us with a hard stop, but
that wasn't my choice.
all right. All right, membership of the board. Jonathan Kalb, thank you or welcome. You've been here this evening. As you can see, there's plenty of things to get involved with. Let us know, and certainly consider attending the Thursday meeting for the drinking water source protection group. So new business, a lot of those items hadn't changed from the last time. We did, at the Environmental Conservation Board, we did talk about a joint meeting. In fact, we talked about it for April. I think we could consider inviting the Environmental Conservation Board to our April meeting, which will be the next time we meet. And then I will follow up with that invitation at the Conservation Board's 17th meeting on March, if we'd like to. I'll offer that as a motion that we invite the town's Environmental Conservation Board to attend our April meeting scheduled for April 13th to enhance the collaboration and working together that we both agencies do.
I'll second that.
Yours, Fiona.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on that?
I want to see how both boards could get a discussion in 90 minutes with a hard stop. That should be fun.
I was just thinking maybe it would be better if we went to their meeting, but then do they meet the same time as the village board?
No, they meet on the
third
fourth.
Thursday, the third
Yeah.
Wednesday, April. Okay, the 17th. So we could do it if you wanted to have more time.
Well, we can't invite ourselves to their meeting though.
Yeah.
We can invite them to ours. Maybe the counter is, hey, we hear you guys have short meetings and you get cut off in the middle. So maybe it's better.
I think you might know someone, Ted. So maybe you could
Right.
pull some strings.
We'll see. One way or the other, though, I think we could look for a meeting in April. So it's been discussed. All those in favor of sending the invitation, knowing that it may not or may be altered, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
None opposed, so motion carries. Ariana, could you send that overture to to Ingrid at this point?
Sure.
Okay. And then the other thing I talked about, or we talked about at the beginning when we were talking about the planning board and the SECRA items is, and I'll be open to correcting my, we'll say language for it, but I'll move that we ask Ariana to send a letter to the lead agency once it's assigned, expressing the Environmental Policy Board's interest in being an interested party for the review of the, we'll call it the Mariello apartment complex project.
Newport Apartments.
Newport Apartments.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Fiona to second. I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. It was somewhat of a clunky resolution, but is there any discussion or corrections on that? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Ariana, could you do that for us?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
All right, great. All right. Any other new business?
I have an item of interest. We just got a grant, a big grant from the DEC that we applied for last May. I was involved in this process, so I'm super excited about it, for new EV charging stations at the Peace Park area where we already have one EV charging station. One is going to be like a fast charger, and it's going to be completely paid for, make ready costs included by the DEC and Central Hudson. So it's really exciting. It's like $127,000.
Cool.
Yeah, that's fantastic news. And I think a lot of that work you put into applying for that grant. Ariana, does that sound right?
I did. Yeah, I didn't want to like do my own horn tooting, but I did. And it was, yeah,
It's-
so I'm pretty pumped that we got it.
That was, yeah, that was Ariana being a rock star. Sorry to interrupt, but
No.
thank you.
I was working to get that into Alex. I think Ariana's not going to do it, then the rest of us do have to note that the idea that we got the grant was Ariana's doing. So thank you very much.
Well done.
Yeah, now I have to administer it. So, another project on my plate, but that's fine.
No.
Well worth it.
Any other announcements? Any other items of interest for the EPB? All right. Our next meeting is Tuesday, April 13th, 5:30 p.m. It'll be on the second Tuesday of each month at 5:30. This concludes the March 9th meeting of the Village Environmental Policy Board for the Village of New Paltz. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Appreciate everybody coming this evening. Jonathan, welcome to the board. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for being here, Jonathan.
Yep,
I'll
to
see
be
you guys next month.
Yep. Goodbye.